And so before we start the analytical process using the Quantum GIS core analytical tools, I would like to give us a recap again of the problems we intend solving and the required data for this project. Now here's the problem. You are an estate agent who is looking for a residential property in Switzerland for a client who have the following preference. Now your client wants that the property needs to be in Switzerland. The property must be within a reasonable driving distance of a school within 1 kilometer. The property must be more than 100 meters squared in size. The property should be closer than 50 meters to a main road, and the property should be closer than 500 meters to a restaurant. Now here is the needed data for this analysis. The residential property data, information on buildings within that area. So the digitized buildings have already been done, and so if it wasn't available initially, I would have to do it. And so we have data on roads. All the data I've been using in the course of this model, and so data of roads in and out around the town, and the location of schools. So we need schools data as well, which is what we've loaded, and we need data on the restaurants to be able to determine the location of the restaurants and also the size of the building. Now that we have added our data for this project, I'd like us to begin the process. We may also add the land use data, and so go to your browser and scroll down, having opened your exercise file from your desktop, look for the land use data. Here is the land use shapefile. Select the land use, and you can left click and drag into your map canvas, and here we have our land use data. You can reorder it so that it doesn't cover other layers. Okay, and you can possibly give it a symbology, the land use. Okay, so we can symbolize it and have a lighter color for it so we can see some of the features on our layers panel as well. Let's make it lighter green. Okay, this is fine. And if you use a zoom in tool, we can actually see some of the features very well. These are schools. This is the land use. The buildings are quite tiny. These are buildings. These are the roads. The restaurants are also somewhere around. So if you zoom the restaurant or right click and zoom to layer, you can also see the restaurants. And possibly if we change the symbology, let's change the symbology of the restaurant. And so for the restaurant is also okay. Here are some of the restaurants. If I zoom properly, and these are some of the restaurants. If I symbolize again and possibly change the color, you can see that it's changing. So these are some of the restaurants. I can actually reorder it at the top so I can properly see it. Okay, now you can see the restaurants are showing very clearly, and so I can zoom out so I can actually see some of the features very properly and very legible. And so we have all our data sets added here, and also our client wants that the property should be within Switzerland, and so we don't have that data for Switzerland, which is the places data. So go to your exercise file, go to your shape file, and you see the places data there, so you can bring it in. And so once you have the places data there, you can reorder. And so let's change the symbology as well so we can see the color. Let's make it something red. And so here you have it, and you can see the red color. However, we want to use the identifier feature to check if this is Switzerland. And so okay, we now know that our feature, the client's preference should be within this region, but we cannot conclude yet until we do our analysis. However, here is Switzerland, so all we should be looking at is within this region. Okay, so let's start the process of analysis. And so the first thing we want to do is to filter the roads layer. so that we can only have some specific routes, some selected routes within the region of interest that we will be working with. And so if you open up, right click on the roads layer and click on the open attributes data, when you check at the field highway, there are a number of road attribute values unclassified and so many options there. And so there are some of attribute values that we want to exclude from our analysis. And so in order to do that, we will be using the filter tool. So right click on the road layer and click on filter, and so we have our query builder dialog window opened. And so double click on the highway to bring it up here in our field expression. Then the space bar, you can now select the not in operator, click on it, and the next thing you want to select is the open bracket. And once you're done selecting the open bracket, click on highway, make sure you check all so that all the field values in the highway will be shown up here. So let's select the first field value we want to exclude. The attribute value is footway. Double click on it, you can click on comma and double click on the next one, which is path. We want to also exclude it, comma. Go to unclassified, double click on it, comma, then you can click on the last one. We also want to exclude the track, so double click on it, then you can close in the bracket. And once you're done, you can click on test. And so our 466 rows that contains all of this information have been excluded. What we have initially was like 766 row records, and now we've been able to exclude this one because we won't be needing them in our analysis. And so that's why we've excluded this number, the combination of all these that were originally there before. So once you click on OK, you can click on OK again, and you'd notice that a number of the roads have been excluded compared to what we have before. If you look at what we have before, there were a number of roads that were existing here before, but we've been able to exclude. You can see that there are no roads on these regions.